Good evening. Thank you for joining the Voices Many podcast with your host, Yolanda, and my wonderful daughter, Vanessa. We want to come to you this evening and want to bring to you a very special guest, Vernon Davis. He is going to talk to us about his receiving the word that he had diabetes, but he's going to talk about his journey, and he's going to take us through the process of that and how he was able to be successful. But also, he's going to talk about his new book that he just launched. Welcome to the mic, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Vernon Davis.
Good evening to you, Miss Yolanda. Thank you so much for having me. Vanessa, you as well.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit how it was whenever you found out that you had type 2 diabetes and how you were able to start putting motions in action to correct what you had?
Yes, ma'am. So prior to receiving the diagnosis, just got to build up the suspense to that day. In short, I was not a fan of going to the doctor for many, many years. I opted to, push through any pain or displeasures that I had in my body unless it was absolutely necessary to go to the emergency room. I was always fearful of finding out something negative and then having to deal with it. And so going to the doctor, it just didn't make sense for me at that time in my life prior to this diagnosis. And, even with experiencing various symptoms that comes with type 2 diabetes that I had no explanation for. Frequent urination, blurry vision, having trouble seeing out of my left eye at times, different pains throughout my body, neuropathy, where my fingers and my toes would go numb at random and they were tingling. My left leg would go numb, not being able to sleep soundly through the night. Always breaking my sleep to get up to use the restroom. Always thirsty, can never quench my thirst, even though I drank at least a gallon of juice and soda a day, along with about a gallon of water as well, but never could quench my thirst. And, when I found out I was type 2 diabetic, the day in the clinic, it really hurt. It hurt my feelings because I did it to myself. Thinking to myself like, goodness gracious, man, if I, would have never took on that mindset of not going to the doctor, I could have avoided this. At least that's my assumption. Another part of me feels like, the doctor could have told me years ago, hey, you're trending in this direction. You need to make some changes. And, what I've really been, honest with myself and said, okay, I'm going to do what the doctor is suggesting. I probably wouldn't, I don't know, because I didn't go to the doctor, so I wouldn't know. But it was scary. It was frustrating. I knew I let myself down. I knew I let my wife down. I let my parents down. My friends, my family, and even my unborn children at the time. My wife and I weren't expecting. We didn't have a child at the time. It wasn't until about a month or two later that we found out we were expecting our first child, and then it was a different level of motivation to get myself together. But in short, it was scary. It was frustrating. It was heartbreaking. I really feared for my life when the doctor expressed that these symptoms were due to type 2 diabetes, and after having ran different tests to support that conclusion, it hurt that much more. From having a A1C level greater than 15.5, my blood glucose level was 476. The doctor was telling me to go to the emergency room. I went to a clinic to get diagnosed, and they were, stressing me, urging me, please, Mr. Davis, go to the emergency room immediately. Please go to the emergency room. And, I told them, no, I wasn't going to get any more bad news for today. And I wasn't going to let them do anything to me that could possibly have me admitted and keep me overnight. So I just went to my vehicle. And from that moment on, once I made it to my vehicle, just start putting a plan together, starting to take action.
Wow. It's drastic. Go ahead.
So if you don't mind me asking, what are your A1C levels now?
So my last doctor's appointment, which was in November of 2021. It's 22, yep. So it was a few months ago. I was a 5.9. So roughly a 10-point decrease, which I was very excited about. So that was my most recent one. I'll be going to the doctor here again in a few months. I opted to do the annual visit now. Now that I got my numbers down, in a very comfortable range for myself. Doctors haven't expressed that I reversed this chronic illness, and now it's just a matter of maintaining the lifestyle that I've adopted in order to heal myself, to heal my kidneys. I had a stage 1 kidney failure. That the doctors diagnosed me with probably a week or two after getting the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, because I had to go and see a specialist, which that was heartbreaking. I kept thinking, man, what else? What's next? Yeah. What else is breaking down in my body? So at that point, my pancreas and my kidney, or one of my kidneys, was the two things that I was knowledgeable of that weren't, in good shape. But, just doing my own self-education and researching for myself, I, come to realize very quickly that the other organs in my bodies were suffering as well. And it was just a matter of time if I continued to trend in the direction that I was going as it relates to my health and nutrition, they were all going to shut down on me in some shape, form, or fashion.
Well, we know firsthand what that's like, being the recipients of someone that's in your life that has type 2 diabetes. And what would you say to men, especially whenever it comes to making that regular checkup? Take heed to the warning signs that your body is giving you. What would you say to men?
Yeah, man, put that pride aside. Doctors are here for a reason. God placed medical professionals on this earth for a reason. They're great, very, very assistive in helping us to be in the best position as possible to live a long and healthy life, at least with the things that we can control as it relates to what we put into our body, the environment that we foster within our body, which has an effect on our mind, our actions, a lot of our decision making, and the functionality of our body as a whole. The things that we enjoy that are not good for us, which majority of us know what those things are in our life, and they vary from person to person. Those things are always going to be here. It's not a matter of not having something ever. It's just knowing when to have it. Having things, small bits and pieces at a time. There is a time and a place for everything, and as one that didn't want to take the advice of doctors, that didn't want to read and internalize the health material that they administered to me, and I opted to do my own research and self-education. I realized in a matter of weeks, everything that I enjoyed in excess was going to be here, even after the day I pass away, whenever that day was to come. It's still going to be here. It's not going anywhere. And it's not bad to have certain things, but what hurts us is having it in excess. You got to figure that out for yourself, and come to that conclusion. One of the things I also realized is that anyone, professional or not, can tell you what to do, but until you develop a conviction on your own about what is or is not helpful for you, those words can go in one ear and out the other. And so you do have to make an investment of time and energy into learning about what's going to be best for you long term in all facets of your life.
Yes, that's very true. I'm glad that you paraphrased it that way, because once we get in the mindset that this is something that I have to do, and not because someone else told me, it has to be us internal that decides, hey, I'm doing this for me, not for the family, but you have to do it for yourself, because there's only one you. And once that you is gone, that's it, So thank you so much for saying that, the importance of not educating ourselves, making ourselves aware of what we have to do, what we must do in order to prevent, but also recognizing that one thing or those few things that we do love indulging in, we have to do it in phrases. We just can't consume it all just because it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
If you don't mind, do you mind telling our listeners a little bit about your new book and how they can get a copy of it as well?
Yes, ma'am. So my new book, Uncomfortable Peace, Stepping Outside of My Comfort Zone to Naturally Beat Type 2 Diabetes. Honestly, I had no intentions on writing a book. It is available on Amazon, as well as our company website, dfpublishing.org, for autographed copies. Originally, I just wanted to share, what I learned and my experience with the world. And I thought, 30, 45-minute video was the best avenue to do so. And once I saw that I wasn't getting the views that I thought the information deserved, considering the pandemic, us all being or the majority of us being at home a lot more often than we would have liked, having, more and more access to food, but also more and more time to consume different foods that, we enjoy, but they may not be the best for us. And noticing a lot of weight gain throughout the country, especially in our community. I was a part of that as well. I picked up a substantial amount of weight at the beginning of the pandemic before going on this health journey. But then I realized that, hey, videos is not enough. People's attention span isn't that long. Mine's isn't. And so, being honest with myself, I was going to have to do a little bit more work to get out what I felt to be very important information. And just pressing record on my mobile device and uploading it to, YouTube or Facebook just wasn't enough. And so, I took the time and, used the resources that I had available to me to put a book together. And now I, promote it, try to get it out and encourage people that, hey, give it a read if there's life changes that you're trying to make as it relates to your health. I'm a living witness that you can turn your health around without the use of prescription medication. I use no pills, for helping out with type 2 diabetes. I used no insulin. Nothing prescribed. I use nothing prescribed. I use everything I use natural herbs and vegetables, and I had to come to a conclusion on why those are going to be helpful for me, which I put all in my book. Was very fortunate to also have my foreword done by Miss Camilla Carter, who is a registered and licensed dietitian nutrition from Texas Tech University, and that helped to solidify at least my book cover and title to gain others' attention, especially those that are familiar with those initials, RDN and LDN. It brings a lot more legitimacy. Miss Carter, as a registered and licensed dietitian nutrition, she's not going to just put her name on anything. And so, I had a great conversation with her. She, was in agreement with the direction that I was headed as far as administering this information and the things that I did to take control of my health. And she has a very heartfelt forward. And at the beginning of the book, I think a lot of young readers could potentially resonate with as it relates to older family members and them not being here anymore for reasons that were within their control. But it documents my life prior to type 2 diabetes as it relates to food and my view on food, my view on health and nutrition, and the things that I experienced leading up to that diagnosis of the chronic illness. All my emotions. I talked about the different principles that I applied in order to not only heal my body, but put myself in a position to be successful in other areas of my life as well, since the state of my health has a huge implication on other areas of my life and the trajectory in which those areas are headed, the trends in which those areas are headed. I've way more productive on the job, throughout friendships and relationships, and in other areas of my life, just by turning my health around. Health is a huge cornerstone for my life, and I assume the same for others.
That's great. That's important, and I appreciate you speaking about how once you were able to get your health back under control, how you saw a difference in you as a person. And I'm quite sure now, since you have a new addition to your family, you have that energy and you're so grateful that you made the changes when you did, because it's a possibility with you being on that track. Before making those changes, you possibly could not have been here, or you may not have been able to actually physically see your child. So,
That's correct.
Thank you for that. Thank you for letting us know how important it is to take care of yourself, love yourself, and then love those around you as well.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. Yeah, I know one of the things that scared me is losing a limb, losing vision, not being able to run and play with my child, not being able to pick my child up, or like you said, even visibly see my child. It was fears of mine, especially after I found out my wife and I were expecting, which was about a month or two after my diagnosis.
Vernon, we want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story with us.
Oh, yes, ma'am. You're very welcome. Thank you both so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Powerful.
And to those of you who are watching and listening, please don't forget to follow us on our social media outlets. And also, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, as we don't want you to miss out on any of our special guests and great topic. And we want to thank you for tuning in.